Okay.
Okay. Uh, Hello, Mr. Florent Dabadie. How are you? Once again, thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much, Albert, for this enjoying meeting, and yeah, looking forward for your interview.
Thank you. Would you allow me to do a short introduction of you for the public?
Of course.
Okay, so we are talking about Florent Dabadie, born in 1st November 1974 in Paris. Is a novelist, sports journalist, and public personality of on Japanese television, and a great graduate of the National Institute of Oriental Languages and Civilization in Japanese and the universities of Shizuoka and Tokyo. And another interesting thing is that he's related to sports because his maternal grandfather, um, Pierre-Étienne Guyot, was the first president of Paris Saint-Germain in
Exactly.
1970, and he obtained the promotion from Ligue 2 to Ligue 1.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so the presentation and the information are correct? Is
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
And also the link with Philippe Troussier, because the presentation is about Philippe Troussier. Uh, Florent Dabadie was the translator for the French coach of the Japanese national football team. He participated alongside Philippe Troussier in the 1999 Copa America in Paraguay, the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney, and 2002 World Cup in South Korea in Japan. And in 2017-2018, we are talking about another experience with the coach. He was briefly the personal assistant of Vahid Halilhodzic in the same position.
Exactly.
Okay, so the first question is how important is it was and what Florent Dabadie had to learn from the experience with Philippe Troussier and Vahid Halilhodzic?
You mean as a as a translator
Yes,
or
yes, as a translator.
well, for me it was kind of the same experience because the both Mr. Troussier and Mr. Halilhodzic have kind of the same personalities. They are both very demanding on the discipline of the players and the team. They base their soccer on a very offensive-minded counter-attacking style with lots of high press. I wouldn't call it gegenpressing like we have nowadays with Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp and all the teams around the world, but in the 2000s and even in the last 10 years, they've always tried to anchor a football which needs lots of running, lots of movement, never really trying to defend. And for me, the first thing was I was of course translating, but beyond the translation, I was trying to kind of explain to the players why they would need to make so many efforts, has to change their mentalities, has to change their diet and training method. So, you know, for Mr. Halilhodzic and Mr. Troussier, it's just one word. They just ask the players do it. And because I'm a translator, I have to adapt to the culture. So I cannot just say do it because probably with the culture gap, the Japanese players and even the coaches, Japanese coaches, wouldn't understand because they are used to get much more explanations about what to do. So I always had to kind of adapt and add some explanations, find a way to motivate the player or to follow up on why Mr. Troussier or Mr. Halilhodzic was asking them to do that. And the main gap was that well, today most of the Japanese players of the Japanese national team are playing abroad, but at the Mr. Troussier's time, we only had one player, Hidetoshi Nakata, playing in Perugia, I mean in Italy. All the players were playing in Japan, and as you mentioned, Albert, their first experience outside of our group might have been the Copa America in 1999, and that was a catastrophe because we lost very badly to the Paraguay 4-0, and even the match against the Peru was very, very difficult, and they were completely lost. And all the matches in South America were very violent, and they were not used to that. So that's how, I had to help also Mr. Troussier to explain to them what was the mentality change that we needed to do.
I have a question about this further, and the next question is, how did Florent Dabadie come to work with Philippe Troussier?
Yeah, it's kind of destiny and also kind of a coincidence. But when I was a student in Japanese language in France, during the 1998 Soccer World Cup, I helped the Japanese sports newspaper jurnalist to do the report for the Soccer World Cup in Paris. And 1 year later, I arrived, 6 months later, I arrived in Japan to work for a movie magazine, actually. So it was not the sports. And the journalist just, he phoned me, he contacted me and say, we have the new coach, who is a French person. He's called Philippe Troussier, and he's looking for the interpreter. So he said, you speak Japanese, you know the soccer. There are many candidates, but they don't know football at all. So I really, really think you would be the right person to do it. So yeah, and that's it. I just sent my curriculum vitae and my profile, and I had an interview, and I got the job. That's how my life kind of changed, and I entered the sports business.
That's a very interesting story. And the next thing is, please, could you tell me a word that represents Philippe Troussier? A short description, only a word that defines him. I know that it might be very hard.
Yeah, no, he's a perfectionist. He is passionate. He is always thinking about soccer 24 hours of the time. And when you say that, you might think that, okay, everybody's like that because they are professional. But I think that coaches sometimes they have different objectives. Some coaches, they love the business and the money. So they want to make business with the players transfer. Some coaches, they just think that it's a kind of an experience and they will do many, many different jobs. So they go from one country to another. Some are more into the education of the young players. And I think Philippe Troussier is one of the biggest quality. He doesn't think too much about the money or the future. When he starts with a problem, he's trying to solve the problem, and he's really intense. He puts the priority to his job even more than his own private life. So I think that's the condition for the top level of coaches, and he's one of them that is like that. And if I should ask one short thing, is he's very good at coaching the young players.
And I saw that in my documentation, I saw that he wants to promote the young players and these tournaments, 1999 Copa America and Asian Cup, and he
Yeah,
was a winner of Asian Cup in 2000. Um, these competitions were the perfect start to construct a team because 80% of the team was different from
yeah,
the team in 1998 with Takeshi Okada.
yeah,
It was a huge difference.
yeah.
Move on. How can you characterize the collaboration with Troussier? Because I saw recently in 2022 you were invited to a television in Japan to comment on the match between Samurai Blue and Germany, alongside
Yeah,
with Philippe Troussier.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
wonderful after 20 years.
yeah. It's nice. We still communicate together. Now he's in Vietnam. He started the qualification for the next World Cup, and he played against already the Iraq and the Philippines. And I text message him after the matches. I try to watch him, and of course he's gonna play the Asia Cup in January, and on January 14th, Sunday, he's gonna play against Japan with the Vietnam national team. So for him, it's gonna be the first time he's gonna be again against the Japanese team after more than 20 years, and everybody's really excited about it. So yeah, it's kind of amazing because he will be 70 years old in 2025, in about 2 years, and he's still traveling a lot. So now he took this Vietnamese national team new job, and he's there. He left his family in Paris and his daughters also. So he's completely alone, and he doesn't even have a translator now in Vietnam. So he's trying to direct the players in English, and he lives alone. I really, his passion is incredible, because he has enough knowledge and money and already achievement that he could retire, but I think he doesn't want to. Mm.
And in your opinion, because Florent Dabadie is already in Japan for so long time, but always there's a first time. So could you please ask, what are the first cultural aspects that a newcomer to Japan encounters?
You mean cultural shock for a
Yes,
foreigner in Japan?
yes,
I think, Albert, I think the Japanese society is still very closed to the foreign world. They try to preserve their own way of doing things within the society. It goes with lots of different codes of language, of politeness, of structure of the society, that they actually require lots of discipline. You don't have the garbage trash bin in the street, so you can't throw away your garbage like that. You have to keep it in your bag. You can't shout. You have so many rules. When you queue in the line, you can't just go around. Even if the street is completely empty, you cannot cross the street before it's the green light for you and red light for the cars. And so they kind of make it very, very complicated to the new person to adapt. It's a way to protect themselves, but at the same time, they are 130 million people on a very, very small island, because it's only 17% of the territory that you can live in. So they try to avoid any conflict. They try to avoid the chaos. So they also try to avoid that the personal opinion or the person has too many emotions, because it could create a conflict with the other person. So I think the Japanese people, it's not that they don't have the passion or they don't have the opinion, but they kind of kill all their personal opinion and passion to try to be as neutral as they can, that they blend in with other people around. So it can be really tough, I think, for the foreign person, wherever you come from, because everything is so homogenized and flat, and that you kind of think that everything is really super flat, and that the people don't really have the emotion, and it's not the case. And you kind of have to control yourself for the entire day in your work, in the society. And when you go at night, after 9, 10 p.m., and you go out in the restaurant or the bars or the clubs or the house of the people, then for the first time they're really open to you, but not before. So I think I've never seen that in other countries to the same extent, even in Asia, that the people have two really opposite faces, like two different person in them. So that's really incredible.
Thank you very much for this long and generous description. We have only 20 minutes remained, so I propose to come back to the arrival of Philippe Troussier in Japan, and how Troussier was seen upon arrival in Japan, considering his CV. Fourth place in the 1998 African Cup of Nations, and the participation in 1998 with South Africa.
Yeah. Well, when he came to Japan, he was not known by the Japanese media and Japanese sports fans. They only knew he had participated to the World Cup with South Africa and had directed a few teams like the Nigeria and Burkina Faso and eventually Cote d'Ivoire. Um, they were expecting someone very young, very energetic, that could have lots of discipline, and maybe that could maybe create a team for 2 years. And then the Japan fans and federation were waiting for Mr. Arsene Wenger to come from 2000 to finish up the World Cup and to direct the team in 2002. The problem is, in 1999, Mr. Wenger said he will not leave Arsenal and join Japan. So they really had to continue with Mr. Troussier. And actually, Mr. Troussier was having kind of good results after the Asia Cup that you talked about in 2000. And he was really on a dynamic. So the fans and the media were very positive about having him to continue. But the federation was afraid he could not live up to the expectation in the World Cup, because he was still very young at the time. So there was a big challenge every day to prove yourself to the employers and all the Japanese soccer world.
And we know very much that it is difficult for a coach to maintain a good relation with the press, because there are so many moments. And how was the relationship with the press during the 4 year in the office for Troussier? Because we know that the Japanese media tend to criticize a lot, and is very exigent.
Yeah, it was very difficult, the media relationship, because lots of the media at the time were specialists in baseball and other sports, but not really specialists in football. And they didn't know that much of the global trend of the soccer. So it was very difficult for Mr. Troussier to talk about tactics or to talk about the Champions League or to talk about the history of soccer. He had to find a way to explain why he was doing everything in a different way. So, and the other thing is, he knew that the level in Japan in the league, the J League, was not good enough. Um, but it was very difficult because every time he was suggesting to make a change or making some kind of critic to the J League, they were really, really upset, the media and of course the J League, because the Japanese people are very kind and polite, but they have a very, very big pride in their history and in their country. So they really, really don't like when you make a critic. So they were not really looking forward to have a debate. So very, very fast, I mean, very quickly, the press kind of had Mr. Troussier as like they made him like a cartoon that he was like the big like a monster, like a devil that was trying to completely change the country and the sports and with no emotion and lots of cartoons in the newspaper portraying him like a red devil and actually it was good for them because they could sell lots of newspaper and then they would go and ask the players, and it's true that the players, they had never had the experience of such a passionate and energetic, because you have to understand Mr. Troussier is very big. He's 190 centimeters almost, and he's almost 90 kilos, so he really looks more like a rugby or American football player. And the Japanese players were kind of intimidated because even during the training, Mr. Troussier, who used to be a defender, he kinds of make full contact himself. So he kind of bumps into the players and he grabs the players, and sometimes, like in judo, he throws the players, and they never had that before, and some were really, really traumatized. And also, I guess the media were not used to the coach that was so aggressive. So he was trying after the training to say, it's not really me. I'm not enjoying being aggressive, or I don't want to be mean, or I don't want to be violent, but I'm trying to to create the simulation of what it's gonna be during the international match, and this is no game. He said it's kind of a war, so I have to be very, very, very strict. It's kind of it's like the army with me, and they didn't really like it because Japan is a Pacific country and they don't have any army, and they try to be as much as possible kind of a low-key, polite kind of people. So he knew that his way of doing was kind of shocking for Japanese.
Yes, and there is a thing from Atsushi Yanagisawa in
Yeah,
2001. He said that we call Troussier the Red Devil because he can get angry very easily.
yeah,
But it is always a reason for his screaming, and I understand what's trying to say. I learned a
yeah,
lot from him, and I enjoyed playing for him.
yeah.
How was Troussier seen and received by the players from this side?
I think in the last 2 years, the players understood that Mr. Troussier was kind of playing a game, and he was not really angry or mean, and he was not the real devil. So players like Yanagisawa, who is someone very, very shy, very gentle, and I remember that he's someone that doesn't speak a lot, so he couldn't voice his opinion, or so for him it was very difficult because Troussier was trying to wake him up, shake him up and trying to say to him, "You're too kind. You can't. You have to be more aggressive." And he was trying to get into his head that the player at sometimes kind of hates the Troussier so much that he becomes kind of a beast and he fights. But he knew that was a very fine line because maybe the player could be very upset also. So the first 2 years were difficult. The last 2 years, the players understood that if they gave their best during the training and were very aggressive and didn't, back up, Mr. Troussier would be happy and he would be very, very honest with them. So I think it got better and we never had big problems with the player. We more had the problems with the other Japanese coaches or the media who sometimes were not, we didn't agree with us, but the fans were kind of agreeing, and especially the old generation was very happy that Mr. Troussier was kind of acting like a very strict but honest kind of a father figure to the players that were young, because it's a time where the Japanese society was having kind of an identity problem, and the young kids where the parents were not able to give them orders anymore. So Mr. Troussier became kind of a symbol of the parents, of the father figure. So I think that also helped us a lot.
Thank you. Unconventional methods are not a secret among coaches. It is true that Philippe Troussier, when the team was traveling abroad, left his players in a certain area of the city and made them look for the hotel where.
Yeah. Yeah, many times actually, not just once. I mean, he did it in Paraguay. He did it in Beirut, in Lebanon. He was always trying to tell them that to solve the problem during the match, you have to be able to solve the problem as a human being in life. And that, when you face a country like the Russia or the Tunisia during the World Cup, those players, they have different ways of approaching the game. They maybe talk to you, they maybe make some kind of trap, and you have to be ready for everything. So you have to open your mind, you have to be curious, you have to, and the Japanese players, they are very good at what is already prepared. But when something which is not prepared happens, they kind of tend to panic. So Mr. Troussier wanted to put them in situation that they would panic, like being completely lost in the middle of a city, and to see if they could find their temper, their calm, and go back to the hotel without panicking. And I think it's a way to change. It's a game also, because you can only train for 1 hour or 2 hours on the pitch every day. But if you make them think out of the box during the entire day, they eventually would become stronger.
Do you have any other examples of unconformist methods? Could you please give me?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Mr. Troussier was sometimes waking up the players very, very early and saying there's the training now at 6:30 in the morning. Like if you have the fire exercise, and I think that's what they do in the army too. So he would wake up everybody and say, okay, training now. And all the players were really panicked because they say it was not planned, it was not written yesterday on the schedule, on the scoreboard. And even the Japanese coach, they were sleepy and they were like, oh, you can't do that because in Japan, you have to be prepared. We don't do the last minute improvisation. And Troussier was getting very angry. saying I'm the boss and you don't decide. And I said, there's training. I don't care, even if they want to come with their pajamas, and I don't care. They're training in 30 minutes and on the pitch. And I remember that some of the stars, including the Hidetoshi Nakata, were very upset because those people were really not morning person and they didn't like to wake up early. So they kind of started to complain to the federation president and to the coach and saying, okay, this French coach is crazy and this is soccer, this is not the army. But in the end, the last year, they started to understand that they have to be ready for anything. And I think Mr. Troussier wanted them to be able to be ready under any situation and not panic. So even if the World Cup, there is something that happens, they take a goal at the first minute, they are injured, the stadium light goes down and you don't know what to do. You don't think, you're just ready and you're like, whatever happens, we are concentrated. And that's what he wanted to do. And I think it worked, especially against Belgium. If you remember, Albert, the match against Belgium really didn't
game.
happen. Yeah, we didn't plan like this. We were really in very tough situation every time the Belgium was leading, and our tactics didn't work. And they came with the new tactic, the Belgium side, and they have completely read our offside trap tactics. So everybody was kind of panicking, but sometimes some of the players, they kind of say, okay, let's find another way. And that's how the Suzuki Takayuki find the goal, and that's how the Inamoto find the goal. And I think this match against Belgium, although we didn't win, was the best match of the Mr. Troussier.
Thank you. Mr. Dabadie, how much time do you have available?
I have another 12 minutes until 45.
Okay,
I think it's 43 right now.
Yes, I have one question, and we want to see some photos in 5 minutes, and after we will finish. Okay, the last question is, how much did it matter to Japan to have a coach like Troussier? What did Philippe Troussier bring to Japanese football in general? The heritage.
I think Mr. Philippe Troussier, for the first time in Japanese soccer, he kind of brought kind of a revolution because he tried to change the old customs of the Japanese players and people, and he tried to make them understand that to be a top level sports player, you have to be much more than a good player on a technical and tactical point of view. You have to be really big as a human being, and you have to be ready to be curious, to study, really to be a big person. And I think that's what he brought to Japan. And that's why when he said to the players after the World Cup, well, we lost, but now you have to travel, you have to go abroad, it's finished, don't stay in Japan, play outside Japan, and you'll become stronger. And 20 years later today, the entire national team plays abroad. So I think that's the biggest success for him.
Okay, so let's go to see some photos in 2 or 3 minutes. Do you see them?
Yeah, I remember that was against the Brazil in the Sinde Olympics, the group league, and we lost this match 1-0 in the Brisbane. I mean, it was a Sydney Olympics, but we played in Brisbane. And I remember we had a very, very good match against the Slovakia, and very good match before also against the South Africa. And yeah, that was a very good Olympics. I think thanks to this Olympic Games, Mr. Troussier could play the World Cup in 2002.
Okay, these photos have the role to show some different stages of this collaboration and the moments that Florent Dabadie was with Philippe Troussier. That was in 2001, a game France against Japan. It was that 5-0 defeat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was very tough match. We played in Stade de France against Zidane and world champion France. It was raining, and we were looking forward as the Asia champion to face the world champion, but the difference was huge, and it was a shock. But at the same time, it was a good time to play, and we played twice in a row against France, Confederation Cup also in Yokohama. A few months later, we lost again, but France were the best team in the world at that time, and it was good that the players can understand the difference.
These are this is a photo with Philippe Troussier give indication and consulting with you. And the next photo, this is a challenge. Do you remind the joke? Because there's clearly the laugh.
Yeah, I don't remember the joke, but I remember this was in Morocco. We played the Hassan Cup again against the France that had won the Euro 2000. It was in the summer. And I remember that sometimes the Japanese journalist was asking very, very serious questions. And for Mr. Troussier, sometimes at first, the first years, he was very serious, but then, he tried to make jokes, and, sometimes I would laugh, but that was very difficult to translate in Japanese.
There are some expressions that are a trademark only for that country.
Yeah, I think so.
Next photos. Oh, this is the departure of Philippe Troussier in 2002, and I think that this is a good sign of respect from the people. And I have just one photo to underline. This is
against the Toko, the last game of the World Cup. He lost 1-0 against Turkey, and that was in Sendai, and we were looking forward to go one more step, maybe to win the Turkey and to meet the Senegal in the next game, and maybe we thought it would be easier to win against Turkey, but lots of deception because we were on a dynamic, and Mr. Troussier knew he had done so many efforts. It was the end of a very, very nice adventure.
Okay, that's our final journey, and I want to thank you. And je tiens également à vous remercier en français.
Ah,
Je
c'est gentil.
considère cela comme un signe de respect pour l'invitation acceptée. Et c'est un dialogue très intéressant dont je suis sûr que chacun retiendra au moins une idée.
Oui.
Et j'avoue que j'aimerais en savoir plus sur l'homme de Florent Dabadie. C'est pourquoi je vous invite pour une nouvelle interview dans le futur lorsque vous serez disponible.
Avec plaisir, avec plaisir. Thank you very much, Albert, for those kind words, and I hope everyone around you is going to enjoy this video. And yes, I say maybe talk again soon next year.
Thank you. One thing. We can continue 2 minutes on WhatsApp video.
Yeah, sure. You can call me on WhatsApp.
Thank you. I will stop.